I honestly don't even know where to start. My husband's parents have never liked me from day one. They've treated me like some outsider who tricked their precious boy into marriage. My Mel once told me at Thanksgiving that she wouldn't be surprised if he came to his senses. Some backstory: we got married 6 months ago. We had a beautiful wedding except for the fact that my in-laws forgot to bring the check for their part of the catering bill and my husband had to put it on his credit card. Whatever. I wanted to move on and enjoy the honeymoon. We went to Hawaii. Day 2, my phone starts blowing up. It's Mel calling me nonstop. I finally answer thinking it's an emergency. She says, "Oh, we're here. Where are you guys?" I'm like, "Here." Where they flew to Hawaii. They thought it would be fun to surprise us and make it a family honeymoon. We spent the next 5 days dodging them at the resort only for them to accidentally book a snorkeling tour at the exact same time as ours. Now, fast forward to a month ago when my husband and I went on a little trip over the weekend. When we got back home, I noticed little things are off in our house: coffee mugs in different spots, blankets folded differently, couch cushions moved. I thought maybe my husband moved some things around before we left, so I just brushed it off. Obviously now I'm convinced it's her, but anyways, then last week I came home early from work and heard someone upstairs. My heart dropped. I grabbed the heaviest thing I can find and snuck up the stairs. It's Minelle in my bedroom wearing my robe, sitting on my bed. She's casually scrolling through her phone like it's completely normal. When I asked what she was doing, she goes, "Oh honey, I was just waiting for you. I wanted to surprise you by cleaning up a little, and your bed is so comfy I just had to try it." I tell her to leave immediately. She acts offended and says she has a key, so it's basically her second home. I found out later that when we were on our honeymoon that they had a spare key made from the one we left for my SAL to water our plants. My husband is still trying to defend them, saying they're just overly involved and meant well. I told him straight up, either the locks get changed or I'm changing my last name back. I guess the beginning would be my husband's family. From the moment I met them I could feel it. That strange quiet judgment people don't say out loud but somehow managed to bake into every look and every question. His mom gave me a once-over and said, "So what exactly is it you do again?" As though I told her I sold black market kidneys instead of working in marketing, but I didn't want to overthink it. We were dating and I figured give it time. Families warm up, that's a thing, right? Wrong. Fast forward to our engagement. We were thrilled. My friends were thrilled. His family was concerned. His dad pulled him aside after dinner one night and said, "Are you sure this is what you want? You know you don't have to go through with anything out of guilt." As if I'd tricked him into proposing by, I don't know, putting an engagement ring in his breakfast cereal. But whatever, we moved forward. Our wedding was beautiful, truly. The one day I tried to block out all the static and just focus on marrying the man I love, but even then his parents found a way to stain it. They forgot to bring the check for their part of the catering bill, a not small amount by the way, and my husband had to cover it on his credit card mid-reception. I was furious, but we were about to fly off to our honeymoon, so I told myself, let it go, don't let them live rent-free in your head. New beginnings, 6 months married, and honestly the marriage is great. My husband is supportive, sweet, and tries his best, but his family's still treating me like the UPS guy who keeps showing up with boxes they didn't order. Then came the dinner. Linda invited us over a couple weeks ago, just a casual family dinner. She said no pressure, just come by and catch up. I was hopeful, even told my husband maybe they're trying, maybe this is the olive branch. He gave me that half smile that says he wants to believe me but knows better. We showed up with a bottle of wine and a dessert I made from scratch, which Linda took with a polite smile and set on the counter like I just handed her a wet sock. Dinner was roast chicken and salad, fine, normal. I was even starting to relax until halfway through the meal when Linda casually dropped, "So when are you two going to start trying for a baby? You're not getting any younger." I nearly choked on my water before I could respond. She turned to her husband and added, "I just don't want them to wait too long and then blame everyone else when it doesn't happen." Everyone else? I put my fork down. My husband gave me a subtle nudge under the table, which I ignored. I asked, "What do you mean by that?" Linda blinked at me like I was the one being rude. "Well, I just mean people always think they have time, and then when it's too late they start resenting their families for being honest." I looked at my husband, who was clearly trying to do mental calculus on how to de-escalate without completely throwing his mom under the bus. I wasn't mad at him, but I was done pretending. I stood up, grabbed the dessert I had made, and said, "I'm taking this home. You people don't deserve lemon bars," and we left in the car. He apologized again, said he didn't know she was going to say that he'd talked to her, that he was tired too, and I believe him. I really do, is trying to keep the peace, to be the glue between two very different worlds. But I told him I'm done showing up to be insulted under the guise of family bonding. He nodded. He didn't fight me on it, and I think that says a lot now. Linda's texting him asking if I'm still mad and saying she was just being honest. No apology, just that classic manipulative "I didn't say anything wrong, you just took it badly" attitude. So yes, 6 months into marriage, and I'm learning that sometimes the hardest part isn't the relationship, it's the in-laws who think they're the main characters. It's been a few weeks since the lemon bar incident. That's what I've started calling it in my head. Honestly, it makes me laugh a little now imagining myself dramatically rescuing a tray of pastries like some petty kitchen vigilante, but the fallout wasn't nearly as funny. Linda has now decided to go full concerned matriarch. She's been sending my husband articles, literal articles, screenshots of fertility advice from Facebook, links to blogs with titles like "Don't wait until it's too late, one woman's IVF regret." There was even a forwarded chain email from 2009 about how soy products cause infertility. "I wish I were joking." To his credit, my husband told her to stop. He said it kindly, too kindly in my opinion, but he set the boundary. "We'll talk to you when we're ready," he said. "Until then it's not up for discussion." She responded with, "I just don't want you to wake up one day and realize you've missed your window." That was her whole thing. The window. Apparently my uterus is a seasonal opportunity. One blocked her number for 3 days. It was glorious, but of course life moves on. We had my birthday dinner last weekend. My parents came, a few close friends, and after much discussion we invited his parents too. My husband thought it might be a way to reset, show them I wasn't holding a grudge. I agreed, mostly because I didn't want to hear another round of "You're keeping us out of his life." They arrived late. Linda handed me a gift bag that was half crumpled and said, "It's just a little something. Nothing big." Inside was a book titled "How to Be a Happy Wife." I stared at it for a full 5 seconds before saying, "Oh wow, a guidebook, been needing one of those." She said it's light reading and then wandered off to critique the wine. My mom, watching from across the room, raised one eyebrow and mouthed, "What the hell?" I shrugged. I honestly didn't even have the energy to get mad. It's like dealing with a sitcom character who never evolves, just keeps recycling the same tired plotline. After dinner, Linda cornered me while I was loading the dishwasher. She said, "You know, I just think you have a very defensive energy. It makes it hard to connect with you." I took a slow breath and said, "That's probably because you keep trying to connect by insulting me." She blinked at me like I'd slapped her. "I've never insulted you. You gave me a book about being a better wife. It's called Being Helpful." Helpful would have been paying the catering bill on time. Silence. Then she muttered, "You don't need to bring up the past." I said, "You keep living in it." That ended the conversation. She left the kitchen. My husband found me a few minutes later leaning against the sink and asked if I was okay. I said I'm fine, but I think next year for my birthday I'd like a vacation, just us somewhere very far away. He laughed, kissed the side of my head and said, "Deal." So that's where we are now, still married, still happy, still dodging emotional landmines anytime his family gets involved. But here's the thing, I'm learning I don't have to win them over. I don't have to perform worthiness. I don't need to play nice just so they'll approve of a version of me that doesn't actually exist. 3 weeks after the birthday dinner, we were invited to a family barbecue at my husband's cousin's house. I said no immediately. I'm not putting myself in a position to get ambushed again. I told him while stirring my coffee, "Last time your mom gifted me a misogyny manual." He sighed. "I know, but it's not just my parents, it's the whole family. They want to see us. It'll be outdoors, public, less opportunity for Linda to corner you about your defensive energy." I rolled my eyes. "Unless she brings a megaphone." He didn't laugh. He was trying so hard. I could see it in his face, this quiet, exhausted pleading. I felt a pang of guilt because the truth is I wasn't the only one hurting in this dynamic. He was stuck in the middle between the woman who raised him and the woman he married, and both were drawing lines in the sand. So I said yes, the barbecue was what you'd expect, kids running around with juice boxes, distant relatives asking if we remembered them from some Christmas party in 2009, burgers on the grill, everyone acting like they were one happy sitcom family. Linda showed up late again. She kissed her son on the cheek, ignored me completely, and then made a beeline for the aunt circle. Classic. I tried to stay out of her way. I made small talk with his cousin's wife, helped with drinks, avoided anything even resembling a baby conversation. Things were fine for about 90 minutes, then came the baby Onacy, one of Linda's sisters, let's call her Aunt Carol, the designated loudmouth, handed us a little gift bag just for fun. Inside was a newborn-sized Onacy that said "Grandma's favorite." Everyone laughed except me. Linda chimed in from across the table, "Well, fingers crossed we'll get to use it sometime before I need a walker." I stood up and said I needed some air. My husband followed a few minutes later. I could tell he was bracing for impact. "I'm trying," I said, keeping my voice low. "I am really trying, but they keep doing this." They joke, but it's not a joke, it's pressure, it's public, and it's cruel." He rubbed his face. I know, I'll talk to her again." "Do you think she even hears you?" I asked, "or does she just wait for you to finish so she can send you another link about my biological clock?" He didn't answer, and that silence, that tiny moment where he didn't know what to say, hit harder than any insult Linda had ever thrown. On the drive home, we didn't talk much. I stared out the window wondering how we got here, how something that should be joyous, building a life, a family, became this cold war with pastel decorations and veiled insults. Later that night, he came into the bedroom holding his phone. I called her. He said, "I told her we're done." I looked up. "What do you mean?" "I mean until she apologizes, a real apology, and promises to back off, she doesn't get to be part of our lives. No dinners, no holidays, nothing." I sat there in shock, not because I didn't want it. Part of me had fantasized about that very thing, but because I didn't think he'd ever actually do it. "You really said that?" He nodded. "I love her, but I love you, and this is not okay. It's not normal, and I'm not going to let her treat you like this anymore." And then I cried, not the dramatic kind, just this quiet, overwhelmed, I can finally exhale kind of crying, because For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was standing alone. It's been 2 weeks since that conversation. Linda hasn't called, she hasn't texted. She did post a vague Facebook status that said, "Funny how some people forget who loved them first," but honestly I'll take that over another baby. Honestly, we're not sure what happens next. Maybe she comes around, maybe she doesn't, but for the first time the boundaries are real and the peace that's followed has been quiet and beautiful. And right now, that's enough. It's been 6 weeks since the cutoff. 6 weeks of silence from Linda. No texts, no passive-aggressive voicemails, no screenshots from obscure fertility blogs, just nothing. You'd think I'd be celebrating, and I am sort of. The absence of drama is like walking into a room where a blaring TV has finally been turned off. It's blissful, but also a little eerie, because once the noise stops you start to notice all the things you were ignoring, like how tired my husband looks. He hasn't said much about it, but I know this hasn't been easy for him. I caught him scrolling through old photos the other night, family holidays, childhood birthdays, one of him and his mom hugging at his college graduation. He didn't say anything, just quietly locked his phone and went to brush his teeth. I didn't push, I just turned out the light and waited for him to lie down beside me, which he did slowly. Like the bed weighed more than usual. The next morning over coffee I said, "You don't have to pretend you're fine." He looked up. "I'm not pretending, I'm just figuring it out." We sat in silence for a while, watching the dog nose around the patio for absolutely nothing. "I don't want to be the reason you lose your family," I said. "You're not. They made their choices, I made mine, but that doesn't make it hurt less." He nodded, staring at the mug in his hands. "You know what's weird? I thought I'd feel angry or maybe relieved, but mostly I just feel sad, like I finally accepted something I've been trying to fight my whole life that stuck with me. It's funny how we imagine our family dynamics are just temporary, like they'll evolve, soften, make sense one day. We convince ourselves that if we just explain it the right way, if we're patient enough, kind enough, accommodating enough, things will change. But some people don't want to change. They want you to break into smaller pieces until you finally fit their version of what love looks like. And I'm done being small. We didn't talk to Linda for all of July. No 4th of July barbecue, no surprise check-ins, nothing. Then in early August she broke the silence. She sent my husband a long email, subject line, "Please read it." Started off almost sincere. She said she was sorry if we felt hurt, that she never meant to create tension, and that she only ever wanted what was best for him. That part was bearable. Then came the twist. She wrote, "I'm sorry you've allowed someone to come between us." And just like that, all the progress unraveled in one sentence. "Allowed someone," as if I'm a parasite that latched on and blocked his signal to the mothership, as if his loyalty to his wife is a betrayal instead of, the entire point of getting married. He didn't respond right away. We went on a walk that evening, one of those quiet ones where you don't even talk much, just let your steps sink up and hope clarity finds you along the way. When we got back, he sat down and wrote her a reply. He let me read it before sending it. It said, "Mom, I read your message. I know you believe you mean well, but you're still not hearing me. You're framing this as something that happened to you, like you're the victim of someone else's influence. But these are your choices, your words, your actions. If you want a relationship with me, with us, it has to start with accountability, not subtle blame, not guilt, not sorry you felt that way, actual recognition. Until that happens, I need space. I hope one day we can talk as equals, but not until there's honesty. Love, your son." He hit send, and then we sat on the couch, arms touching, and just stared at the wall, not because we were upset, but because sometimes silence after a boundary is the only kind of peace you get. That night I curled into him and whispered, "I'm proud of you," and he said, "I'm proud of us," because no matter what happens next, whether Linda comes around or stays buried in her version of the truth, we've chosen each other fully without apology. We're talking now more openly about having a child. Quietly, privately, no pressure, no timelines, just two people building something that feels safe and intentional. And if we do bring a baby into this world, it will be into a space filled with love, not control, with boundaries, not conditions, with honesty, not manipulation dressed up as concern. And if that means our child grows up with fewer family members around but more peace, then so be it. Where the silence breaks, a major life change begins to unfold, and choices have to be made. This chapter is more emotional-led and reflective. We're going deeper now, not just in the conflict, but in growth, loyalty, and what it means to protect your peace. It happened on a Thursday, just a normal, nothing special Thursday. I was standing in the kitchen in pajama pants, hair in a bun, sipping cold coffee I'd reheated twice but never actually drank. It was 7:42 a.m. I remember that because I had just opened my calendar and was staring at a meeting I didn't want to go to. When the test finished blinking 2 lines, I stared at it like it was written in another language. Then I sat down on the toilet lid and just stared. I don't know what I expected to feel, joy, panic, something profound, but honestly I just felt still, not scared, not overwhelmed, just still, like everything paused for a second. When my husband came out of the shower, I handed him the test. He blinked at it, then looked at me, then back at it. "Is this?" "Yeah," I said. "It's real." He just stood there for a second, dripping water onto the floor, staring at this tiny plastic stick like it was some ancient artifact. Then he broke into a smile, wide, stunned, real, and pulled me into him. It was one of those hugs where you don't even realize you've been holding your breath until someone else is breathing with you. We were going to be parents. We didn't tell anyone right away. It wasn't secrecy, it was self-protection. For once this moment was ours. No opinions, no pressure, no baby-themed weaponry disguised as gifts, just us. But word spreads as it always does in families, and it didn't take long. 1 week later Linda found out, not from us, she heard through one of the cousins. Apparently someone saw us at the pharmacy picking up prenatal vitamins and decided to congratulate us publicly in a group chat. We were never in. 2 hours after that my husband's phone buzzed. It was a voicemail from Linda. Her voice was shaky, not angry, not passive-aggressive, just soft, like she didn't know how to enter a conversation she'd been locked out of. She said, "I just heard the news and I wanted to say congratulations. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from right now, and I deserve that. I know I've pushed and judged and made things harder. I didn't realize how much damage I was doing until you stopped answering." That silence hurt, but it also made me think, and I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me overnight or even talk to me. I just wanted you to know that I love you both, and I hope maybe one day I'll get to know the baby. We listened to it twice. My husband didn't say anything at first. He just sat there, phone in hand, thumb hovering over the delete button. "I believe her," I said quietly. He looked at me. "You do?" "I believe she misses you. I believe she's starting to understand. That doesn't mean we let her back in right now, but it means maybe we don't slam the door shut forever." He nodded. "We didn't call her back, not yet, but we didn't delete the message either. That weekend we finally told my parents. It was emotional in all the good ways. My mom cried, my dad got quiet, the kind of quiet where you know his heart is full but his face doesn't quite know how to show it. We told close friends. My best friend brought sparkling apple cider and a card that said holy shit *T you're pregnant with gold lettering and tiny confetti inside. I laughed so hard I nearly threw up, but there was this part of me, a small part but real, that felt something missing. Not Linda, but the piece that came from the silence. I missed it because even though she apologized or started to, I could feel that invisible thread tugging again, the one that says be careful, don't trust too quickly, don't let them back in just because they knock with flowers instead of fists. Pregnancy makes you protective, fierce, it rearranges you, and I decided something in those early weeks I would not raise a child in a space where love comes with guilt, where family means bending until you break, where apologies are just doorways for the next invasion. Linda may have changed or started to, and I hope she has, for her sake and for my husband's, but if she wants a relationship with this baby, our baby, she's going to have to earn it slowly, gently, consistently. Because this baby deserves better than silence followed by manipulation dressed as remorse, and I do too. For now we are keeping the circle small. My body is growing, my world is shifting, and for the first time in a long time I feel like I'm not just surviving family dynamics, I'm defining them one boundary at a time. The baby came early, not dramatically early, just enough to throw off our plans. We hadn't finished the nursery, I still hadn't packed my hospital bag. My husband was out getting takeout when I felt the first contraction, standing barefoot in the kitchen with a half-eaten banana in my hand. 12 hours later, I was holding our daughter. There's no way to explain that moment unless you've lived it. The sudden jarring expansion of your heart, like your chest becomes a room with no walls and this tiny person just fills it instantly. I cried, not softly, the ugly kind, exhausted, overwhelmed, complete. She was perfect, she still is. The hospital was a blur. Nurses' vitals papers to sign. My husband cutting the cord with shaking hands. I remember staring at the ceiling, sweaty and dazed, and thinking I did it, we did it, and no one else gets to take this from us. And then the door knocked. It was the nurse. "There's someone here asking to see you. She says she's your mother-in-law." I froze. My husband was in the corner holding our baby. He looked at me, searching my face. I didn't call her, he said. I swear I believed him. Apparently one of the cousins again had spread the news before we could. Linda had come straight from work. She was downstairs in the waiting room alone. The nurse asked, "Would you like to see her?" And here's the thing, I didn't know the answer. There was a time not long ago when I would have said no without blinking, but in that moment, holding this new life, something in me shifted. I wasn't afraid of Linda anymore, not of her comments, her judgment, her approval, because none of it mattered now. I had everything I needed in that room, so I said, "She can come up, but just for a few minutes." The nurse nodded. My husband asked, "Are you sure?" I nodded. "Let's see who shows up." Linda came in quietly, no flowers, no balloons, just her standing at the edge of the room with her bag over one shoulder and the kind of face that doesn't know what it's allowed to feel. I didn't want to intrude. She said, I heard, and I couldn't stay away." I looked at her, really looked for the first time in a long time. She seemed small, not in a pathetic way, just human, soft around the edges, tired. I didn't say anything, I just held my daughter a little closer. She stepped forward. "She's beautiful," she whispered. "She looks like you." It wasn't a performance, there was no sarcasm, no agenda, just a grandmother meeting her granddaughter for the first time. My husband stood beside me, his hand touched my shoulder. I felt steady. Linda looked at me. "I've been a lot of things to you," she said, "but kind wasn't one of them. I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forget, but I'm asking from here on out if I can show up the right way for her, for you, for all of us." I didn't cry, I didn't soften instantly, but I did nod. "Showing up," I said, "starts with listening and not needing to be the center of everything." She nodded. "I hear you there." It was not a fix, not a clean slate, but a beginning. She stayed for 10 minutes, held the baby gently, didn't offer advice, didn't ask questions about how we planned to raise her. Just sat quiet, present, and when she Left, she didn't say I love you or see you soon, she just said thank you for letting me meet her, and that was enough. It's been 3 months, we're tied, we're in love, our house smells like formula and lavender baby wipes, our dog still doesn't understand why this noisy human gets so much attention, life is chaotic, soft, sacred. Linda has visited twice, she brings food, she asks before coming, she stays in her lane. It's not perfect, it's never going to be, but it's something, and the truth is I don't need her to be a different person, I just need her to respect the one I am now, a mother, a wife, a woman who will never again shrink herself to keep someone else comfortable. This family, the one we're building, is full of love, but also boundaries and balance and truth, and that's how I know we're going to be okay, because in the end this wasn't just a story about conflict or in-laws or lemon bars, it was a story about becoming, and I finally became someone I'm proud to be.